Hey everyone, you're watching Conversations in Pop Culture, and I am your host, Andrew Davis, and this episode is brought to you by my sponsor, BCW Supplies. Use code POPAnimeComics to get 10% off your order. They sell bags and boards to protect your valuables. Use that code because I'm with Joe Brusha, and Joe Brusha is one of the co-founders of Zenescope, and Zenescope books need to be protected. So please go use my code to save yourself some money. So welcome to the show, Joe.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, I am very excited to have you on. Obviously, I've interviewed Ralph. I've had Franchini on. I've had a bunch of other people on as well from Zenescope. And I wanted to do this for a while. And we're going to be talking about four things and only four things. And I figured the best thing for me to do, and I'm not going to sing happy birthday to you. I'm just not doing it. I'm just not doing it. That's
well,
like tomorrow.
It's not my birthday. It's the company's birthday, but it's not mine. So that's okay.
So obviously, I mean, Zenescope's been around for 17 years. You're having your birthday VCon. You know, obviously, you had a year of driving. You might be taking the company's driving test tomorrow. So what is it like to be around for 17 years as a company? I think is the best place I want to start.
It's exhausting. It's really kind of crazy. I don't know. It doesn't feel like 17 years. It's it's been a lot of fun, and I think it went by so fast. Really, it's honestly, you say 17 years, and you're like, wow. But it's good to finally be, I think, in a position where, our first 5 years, I look at it probably like dividing the 3 years. Our first 5 years was a complete struggle. We probably thought we were going to go out of business every day. The next 5 was kind of like, okay, we might make it. We got some good things happening. But still, every once in a while, you start to worry about it. And then, like that's probably more like the first 6, the second 6, and now the next 6 have been pretty good. I mean, the last couple of years have been pretty good for us. I finally feel like we're an established company. We don't have to worry about going out of business as much as we used to. I mean, I guess anybody can go out of business at any time. But it just, it feels good to be a little bit more solid. People seem we get, I think, more well known, a little bit more respected. We have people offering to buy the company every once in a while. So I think we're in a much better position.
Yeah, and to even talk about this as well, I mean, obviously, in the last 17 years, I came into Zenescope about 10 years ago, more in the variants, and then I got into the stories. And what has this been like? Because you have taken the traditional Robynhood and Van Helsing and all these fairy tales, and you have really reimagined them in so many ways and evolved these characters. And what has this been like? Because I have, and a lot of other people have, a new interpretation on a lot of these characters, and also new territories being explored in a lot of ways as well.
Yeah, it's been fun. I mean, I think that we try and take those characters and make them our own in the Zenescope way. I think it makes it a little bit easier sometimes to tell these stories because you have established characters or characters that are known on a lot of these, and you can then make your own mythology and expand them and play around with the different archetypes and things like that. So overall, it's been a lot of fun. I like seeing. Robynhood's probably our most popular character right now, but Van Helsing is very popular. Obviously, there was a TV show. Carrie's has been very popular. So to see those kind of the Zenescope iterations of those out there, and I just think it's really cool.
And then the other thing that I like about Zenescope, and may or may not be going into dangerous territory, so you could take the fifth anytime you want. Anytime you want.
All right, good.
One of the things that I really appreciate about Zenescope is that you guys, starting in 2005, and I feel like really in 2007, started to fill the niche of bad girl art, per se, where back in the 90s, obviously, places like Top Cow were doing it, and then that sort of dissipated, and then I feel that Zenescope has really brought that back, but has brought it back in a very cool and sort of classy way. And you continuously do that. And so what has that been like? Because you guys have really filled that market. And I think that's one of the secret sauces of Zenescope in a lot of ways.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for saying that. I think I'm glad that you feel that way. Again, I think it's been really cool. I love to see that artwork. I love to see the different, styles that artists can bring to that. And I think that as a company, we really embrace that. Some people, for whatever reason, don't, or will look down on it, or will take crap for it. But at this point, I don't care. It is what it is. I think that it's something to embrace. There's nothing wrong with it. It's cool to see that bad girl or sexy artwork and see those characters. Yeah, we're selling a fantasy, right? That's what we're doing. That there's these badass, heroes and female heroes, and what's wrong with seeing them sometimes in a sexy light? They can be badass and sexy. So I really like it. I embrace it. I think it's awesome. I love that our fans, whenever we're at a show, you'll have both men and women will come up and be like, "I love this artwork." And a lot of times, more often than not, it is women that will embrace it and be like, "I love the sexy artwork. I love the, kind of that bad girl artwork." So for me, it's been great, and I think, hopefully when we start to make movies a little bit, later down the line, maybe next year, we'll get the same kind of embrace. Because I think everything's gotten so political on the entertainment side that people are shying away from that, but there's an appetite for it for sure.
Yeah, and obviously I'm not going to probe too deep into it, but I also think it's the idea that people just want really good stories. They want good art. And I think people, and I personally don't care where, if it's good art, what do I care if it's nude art? What do I care if it's sexy art? And what do I care because I want good quality, I want somebody like Keith Garvey or J. Scott Campbell, or there's a bunch of other people. Senku Manaki's a good name to drop in there. Tristan TriStar, who's only done a few covers for you, is in that vein as well. And so that's something that I think people also recognize too, is that it's not just sexy art, it's some of the best artists in the world. I think
Yeah.
that's also the other side of it too, is that it's not shitty art, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, no, like you said, it's art. I think that's that's it. That's the definition of art. You know what I mean? And it's definitely subjective, but we try and get the best artists we can out there to do really good renditions of our characters. And I think we've been pretty successful with that.
And then obviously I want to back out of the 17 years because that's tomorrow on Thursday.
Yeah,
I'm sure Jason is going to do great with that.
yeah.
I'll be there. I'll be there. I'm just saying. You'll see me in the chat.
All right, good.
But but I do want to talk about what you've been doing, because while you obviously do run the day-to-day operations to some degree, you also have, in my opinion, been writing the most amazing Robynhood arc in a while that's been out there, and what I dub to be Robynhood sort of 3.0/4.0. And that's been going on for a while now with the Iron Maiden and Spider Queen and Voodoo Dawn and Goldilocks, which is just terrifying. She's scary. And then the Swarm was another good one, and Hellfire, and a few others. So what has this been like? Because obviously you had the inception of Robynhood. Pat Shand did a fantastic job, and then you've gone through a few other writers. I know Chuck Dixon did some work on it. I don't know if Howard Mackey did work on it, or unless that's Jasmine. And then now we're sort of, a few other people sort of took it over. I think Ben Mears or Maris did something on it, and then now you're having your run with it. I think for the first time, or for the first time in a while, I want to say.
Yeah, I mean, we've definitely had a lot of writers on it. I Robynhood has probably always been my favorite character since she was created. Just whatever reason, I've always had an affinity for that character. And we've had a lot of writers. We've gone through a lot of different stories and different, kind of different ways that she's been portrayed. And I think one of the things that I wanted to do was kind of make her a little bit more real and grounded. A lot of times we take these characters and right away, Robin was a hero and she was thrown into these situations where she didn't have a lot of backstory. You didn't know where she came from. A little bit. I mean, Pat did a good job with the first origin story, but I think the more real the characters and the more depth you give them, obviously, the more the audience is going to connect. So with these stories, I've really been trying to kind of dissect her and figure out what makes her tick and portray that through the story. So I appreciate you saying you liked it. I'm glad you're enjoying reading it. But that's really what I've been trying to do, and just bring her back to a more grounded, real character.
And even to go further into this, because it's also a different format as well that has happened, where I think the industry has changed in how content is consumed, these are 32 page. I think one of them or a few of them might be 70 pages. And it's also more content. It's not the traditional 22 pager anymore. And also, they either come out once a month or every other month. And so, what is that like as well? Where you've shifted up the format and you're giving more story too, because that does change the way it's written. It also changes what you could pack into it. It also changes the way they sort of stack up on each other. And I think that that's something that's very cool with these stories as well, where as a fan, I don't mind spending a little bit more money for more story.
Good. Yeah, it's. I think it's the way in general entertainment's being consumed now. Ever since Netflix and some of the other streaming services, you can watch a whole season in a day. Everything's usually released at once, unless of course it's Disney and it's their stuff because they like to play it out. But so I think people want that immediate gratification, and from what we've seen over the years, I think the single issue continuing storyline. I don't know if it's not done obviously, but I think that it's kind of the dinosaur. It's going to be gone at some point. People consume graphic novels more because they want the whole story. Like I haven't bought probably a single issue comic since DC launched the New 52, and I did a couple of those. But if I buy something in a comic, I buy a graphic novel. So we've really tried to give that all in one story in one sitting, whether it's 32 pages or like you said, we do some 72 pagers, 65 pagers, so that you can get that all in one story, and you really don't have to keep up with the continuity.
Oh no, I don't like it.
That so again, yeah, it's kind of it's been pretty successful, I think, for us so far. I haven't seen a lot of people other companies adopt that kind of single issue bi-monthly or quarterly format. But for us, it's been good, and I really like it. It is hard to write it, I will admit that, because you kind of got to get that whole story in there. And writing a 72-page book, it's really you're writing 3 comics, so it's a little bit time consuming. But in the end, I think the product is a little bit better doing it that way.
And also going off of that as well, because while these are single issues or I guess self-containing stories, they do stack on each other. And
Sure.
that's one of the things about Robinhood that I think is fascinating, where, and I'm not saying I know the entire Robinhood arc, panel by panel per se, but I've read a lot of Robinhood, and these stories do stack up because we are exploring Robin and we are facing her inner demons and seeing how she ticks. And what happens, obviously Robin faces the Spider Queen, and in the Swarm, I think she's facing her again. And so, what is that like? Where you don't need what happened in 3, I guess one shots ago, but it does help, and it also gives more character development. And I think that's something that is really interesting, where it's every other book enhances the book that is before it, but you could still jump in at any point. And I think that's a real issue in comics right now in a lot of ways. And I think you guys are attempting to solve that issue and trying to change the trend a little bit
For
with it.
sure. Yeah, that's the challenge. I mean, the challenge is, and I go back to when I was really in the comics was probably the mid '80s, and I feel like you could pick up any, and I was more of a Marvel guy than DC. I felt like you could pick up almost any story, and you got in that issue, you got a full story that had maybe one villain or one problem, and you got something out of that without having to. If you missed it a month, or if you were picking up in the middle, you didn't miss a whole lot. But it's a challenge. So you do have to have them stack up on each other. But can you get a story out that can entertain in that one sitting, and then still leave the reader wanting more? But if they miss it, it's not that big a deal. Or if they jump in at a certain point, it's kind of like there's some TV series that do that. My wife is a big CSI watcher. So CSI, you can watch, anyone, pick up anywhere, which she does all the time, and you get a full story out of it. But there are little thread stories going through that might resolve down the line. So comics is a little bit bigger for sure. We have bigger threads going through, and we want to have those annuals and big event issues that tie some things together. But we want. I guess the bottom line is we want everybody to be able to sit down, read one issue, be entertained, and not be bogged down with worrying about anything else.
Yeah, and then also even just going forward into the latest one, I think one of the latest ones, which was Heart of Darkness. Obviously, Mystere is now teaming up with Robin, And so that's in that where we're getting that cross, over stuff that's going on. I think we just had Death Force, a little maybe like a year ago for Zodiac, and that had real consequences. And also, I mean, this stuff is starting to now circle around, and I don't want to say cross contaminate, but while a lot of this stuff is one shot and self contained, there are hints at it cross contaminating. Mysterious in Robinhood, Van Helsing's been in Robinhood, Robinhood's been in Van Helsing, and you guys are going towards something, and you're going to be reaching a point of critical mass at some point with some of this stuff, and I think it's all going to play out. And you don't have to answer that question.
I hope so. I hope it does. Otherwise, we'll probably have some disappointed readers. But yeah, no, you're right. It definitely is. It's just a matter of trying to find that balance where it's not too much. And again, if you just read Robinhood, can you get by without reading? And going back to Marvel again, I think it was kind of like, they would do that very well. They would have a Spider-Man storyline that, Spider-Man would go off into a different, whether it was Secret Wars or whatever it was. If you wanted to go and read that to get more content and get another story, you could. But if you didn't, you didn't miss anything in the main Spider-Man title. So definitely trying to do it very much like that.
Yeah, and there's just a lot of stuff coming down the pike, and obviously you don't need to read every little thing as Zenescope. You should, but you don't need to. That's all I'm going to say.
Right.
But obviously, I do want to back out of Robinhood and everything that's going on and getting to the point of critical mass where we're going with it. And I want to dive into what is coming next that I think you guys had last year. That was sort of a runaway book, and that was Man Goat and Bunny Man, and that's something that was rather very interesting. And so, what prompted that book last year? Because I don't think you guys were expecting it to play out the way it did.
No, we were very pleasantly surprised with the success of that book. I think we just kind of hit a niche or something, and it really just took off. It came out of a story conference. It was a thing I was thinking about for a long time, and we usually do 1 or 2 story conferences a year where we'll try and plan the next year's publishing schedule, and we always are looking for miniseries. So we'll do like 1 miniseries per quarter, and everybody's got ideas. Ralph, Dave, myself, David Wall, and we were looking for one for last year. And I just said, hey, I've been thinking about this book. I'm big into cryptids. I'm big into like mysteries. I think they're fun. I think that they're interesting. And one of them, the Goat Man, is a big one in Texas. People have seen this crazy goat man down there, and then the bunny man one is wild. It's very funny. An oversized bunny running around with a hatchet under a bridge or something. I forget the exact urban legend, but for whatever reason, I just thought these guys are made to be together. They're the Man Goat and the Bunny Man. It just sounded right, and then we did a story meeting and we fleshed it out. And Dave and Ralph were really into it. They really liked it. And it's a comedy. It's a buddy comedy with horror aspects. So I was very surprised that it did well, that it did as well as it did. I think it was our best-selling book last year, or one of, and it was a lot of fun. It was really a lot of fun. Working on the sequel right now, and that's a lot of fun. So.
Yeah, it's a great book, and obviously I bought like 4 of these covers because I love this cover, and this cover looks like Katie Forbes. It looks like Katie Forbes. This is Katie Forbes, everybody. This looks like Katie Forbes, and this is Katie Forbes too, and this legitimately looks like Katie Forbes. So, I mean, I want to get Josh Burns on, and I want to ask him that question because this is the Katie Forbes cover. That's all I'm saying, and that cover sold out so quick too.
It did.
It's crazy because I don't know if you guys knew it was going to take off, but my understanding is that issue 1 had a very short print run by definition.
Yeah.
And
it wasn't our typical print run. I forget how many we printed, but it sold out quickly.
And then I know issue 2 and issue 3 also didn't exactly have large print runs, and people were like, "Where do I get this book?" And I wound up missing issue 2. And so I wound up paying like an extra $3 on eBay for my issue 2 because it was sort of going for that, which is not usually how a Zenescope book that is not an exclusive goes for. And so what is that like for you as a company? Like, oh, snap. Like, this is a good problem to have, though, in a certain way.
Well, it is, and it's tough to reprint because the reprint, you have to print a lot. Like, you can't, like a small print run, you can't really print less than 5,000 or it's, it's not cost effective. But it was good. It was just, I think overall we're just happy when any book sells out, and when it sold out that quickly, um, like you said, it's a good problem to have. Had I wish we had printed 20,000 and sold them all, sure, but just to get the fan reaction and the selling that many was awesome. And then you always have the graphic novel, so people who didn't get the individual comics, they can get the graphic novel as it comes out, and hopefully enjoy the story that way too.
Yeah, and it's also one of those things where I think in comics is that you never know when something's going to hit and when something is not going to hit, and so it's a tricky business. But obviously, going into this, and now that obviously this book went really well, the sequel's coming, and so what is that like going into the sequel and having pressure and going into delivering and all
It's
that stuff because it's kind of tricky to some
it,
degree.
it's a lot of fun, and I don't, you definitely, there is pressure you're worried about. Is it going to be as good as the first? Is it going to be as well received as the first? But I think the best part about this book is the characters are a lot of fun to play with. So this one's a little bit crazier, I think, a little bit more nuts. But it's fun. It's at this point, I think that we just try and have fun with these characters and let the chips fall where they may. Hopefully, people will enjoy it, and it'll do just as well. So I'm having a blast writing it. So.
And also, I would imagine that, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think Goatman and the Bunny Man, the first one and then the sequel necessarily takes place in the Zenescope universe the same way Robin and Van Helsing and Oz and all that stuff does at the moment, at the very least. There might be a bridge eventually to it. If I'm wrong, correct me at any
No,
point.
you're right. We've kind of established a secondary universe. I don't know if they'll ever merge, but we have kind of this monster universe where our Monster Hunter Survival Guide survives in or lives in, and the All Guts No Glory that Ralph did is also is in that universe. So we almost have two distinct universes that don't overlap at this point.
And so, and the reason why I bring this up is that I think it is very helpful sometimes when companies do that and say, look, we want to have content because somebody could get very intimidated by the Zenescope universe and how massive it is and the Grimm universe. And so they'd be like, hey, look, I just want also a 3-part series, and I don't want to read all of Robynhood because it's really massive at this point. Or I'm not a big, Grimm fairy tales fan per se. I mean, I am, but hypothetically, but somebody might be like, what is? I'm looking for something that is sort of short, and something that is, more realism. So I think it's very interesting to do that. And also, it gives you freedom as a writer to some degree as well, that you don't have to follow your Bible, I guess, is another thing.
For sure. And it's I think it's a challenge of the whole comic book industry, and it's been around for so long that if you want to read something, where do you start, right? Like if you want to be that's one of the reasons I don't really read as much Marvel or DC anymore, because I think they've just got too convoluted and big. So where do I start? What do I read? So it's nice to have, and we try and do it at least once a quarter, to have one book that's outside of that other stuff that stands on its own, that's either a horror or a horror comedy or a fantasy type series that, if somebody is just looking for some pure entertainment, doesn't want to get bogged down in this Grimm universe stuff, they can pick it up and just read it.
Yeah, and I just think it's important that obviously choice matters in a lot of ways. And I think that people are also saying, look, I am sick of the mainstream stuff and that I want something that is out of the norm. I mean, Goatman and Bunnyman is not a normal book. The book is trippy. It's also a little weird sometimes. I'm not going to lie what's going on. I'm going to drop a name, Odd Taxi. People who are going to be seeing this and listening to this and checking it out might get where I'm going with that. And I'm not going to say anything else. I like to speak in code for a reason. But I also think that this is not, and I haven't seen something like Goatman and the Bunny Man in a while. And I'm sure there's stuff out there, but what is that also like saying, hey, we're going to test the waters and have a trippy anthropomorphic, type of book out there as well, because people want something that's different now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think as a company or me personally that I worry too much about what people want, because if you start doing that, I feel like you're gonna miss. I feel like we tell stories that we like. So like I love Mango and the Bunny Man. Like I just think it's hysterical, and I like I said before, I love cryptids and Bigfoot and all that kind of stuff. So instead of chasing kind of the market, and this is what you see all the time, especially in Hollywood, is like somebody did this, so we need to do it. We just kind of try and figure out stuff that we like, and hopefully hope that our fans and other people are going to like it too. It just so happens, I think you're right. I think that there wasn't something like this out in the marketplace. There wasn't really this kind of weird, these anti-heroes that are cryptids, and that's why it hit, probably. But we could have published 7 or 8 different books, and they wouldn't have done as well. And it just happened this one did.
Yeah, that's interesting that you mentioned that people are trying to chase, I guess the money, and then people, it's a real issue where people say don't chase the money, write a story you want to write, but it's also balancing and figuring things out. And I think a lot of people in comics right now really are trying to chase money, and that's why you have a lot of stories in the Kickstarter realm and even in mainstream that is just generic. I think it's genuinely boring, and like as a fan, I am genuinely bored with 90% of the market.
Yeah, that's not good, and it's like I said before, I think people are just trying to, you can't write. I don't think you can write stuff to please a certain audience or to, appeal to certain population bases, things like that. You just have to tell cool stories. Usually there'll be somebody, if you do a good enough job, people will like it. Obviously we don't have the widest reach that we'd like to, but our fans enjoy this stuff, and hopefully if we add a little bit on each year, a couple new fans that get into it because, like you, they're tired of the norm, then that's good for us.
Yeah, I also just like your variants because who doesn't like a Zenescope variant? I mean, you're walking in a comic shop, you see a sexy girl in a football jersey. I'm just saying. Not a Cowboys jersey, I might add, but a winning team.
No Cowboys. We've done a couple Cowboys, but I don't know. We won't do it too often.
I have to get it in there. I I just have to get it in there. But I'm a Giants fan. It's a requirement. They're not doing good either.
They'll be all right this year. I think they're going to be a little bit better than people think. So you might be surprised.
Just terrible. It's just terrible. But obviously, even going further into this, what can people expect? Because I know that Mangoat and the Bunny Man, I guess Volume 2, the sequel. I don't know what the title is or the subtitle is called. What can people expect with that book without giving too much away? Because I think it's dropping in July.
Yeah, the subtitle is going to be Green Eggs and Blam. So it's a little play on Dr. Seuss, which I think people are really going to enjoy some of the covers that we're coming up with and story. And it really, not giving too much away, it delves into Bunny Man's backstory. And it'll give the first story was a little bit more about Phil, Mangoat. And this one will be a little bit more about Floyd, who is Bunny Man, and we'll tell some of his history and backstory and get into his previous life.
And obviously it's going to be fun. I think Reyes did a cover, and that cover is very much similar to another cover that was done on April Fool's Day. I think by Ebas, I might add, or Mike Crum. I forget who did that cover with the pigs putting dollar bills into.
Oh yeah. That was Ebas.
Yeah. Right. See, I know all the covers, guys. I know all the covers.
Yeah. There's some really good covers for Mangoat and the Bunny Man.
I think that issue that I'm talking about might be the second issue for this entire series.
God, we do so many covers, I can't remember.
Because I know Reyes did something that's like that, and I just briefly saw it like on eBay.
Okay.
For like a pre-order in somebody's store, and it's something that just looks awesome. I'm like, man, this is a brilliant cover.
Yeah, the cool covers will be Paul Green is doing a set of homage covers that are going to be like diamond special orders. That keep an eye out for them. They're really good.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of stuff that's dropping, and I don't know how many exclusives you're going to do with this, if any. That's something to keep in mind with it, and I'm sure there's going to be something that's going to be cool to pick up by a bunch of people. I'm not going to push it. Obviously, I don't think any of that is going to hit till July or August at that point. So I think people have time to figure out their finances.
Yep.
And so obviously there's a lot of stuff going on with this, but I do want to talk about one more thing, or two more things technically. And obviously you guys just ran a Kickstarter.
Yep.
And the trading cards. And I don't know if you know what I'm doing with Pat Chan when they come.
You guys
So
gonna do a
me and
break?
Pat, what?
Are you guys gonna do a break?
We're gonna break it open.
Oh,
So
that's
it's gonna be fun. And I'm trying to find other people who and some Zenescope fans who want to break it open with us. And I only have 3 packs. I don't know what Pat has, but it's gonna be a good time. And so I've been waiting like desperately for it, but I'm very excited for that to occur because that's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun content. It's gonna be fun to have Pat Chan on. Hopefully his cat will behave. So I'm gonna ask.
oh, that's awesome. I'm glad you guys are doing that.
But where are we at with that? Because that's something that obviously was a very cool Kickstarter, and I don't know if you were anticipating. I think you did over 100,000. I don't know if you were anticipating to do the 100,000. Obviously, cards are really, really collectible right now, but even just it just really went down to the wire, and then it was pushed over, and then more stretch goals were being unlocked, and I came in at about like 47,000. I'm like, oh, they'll do 80, 90,000. I was not expecting 100. So what was that like? Because the demand is really there.
Yeah, we were completely blown away. I was blown away. I thought, like you said, I thought we might hit 40,000, and we actually picked up almost another 20,000 on backer kit through Kickstarter. So the total was like 120 grand. Yeah, like I said, I just never anticipated we would do that well. Cards are big. I think they're, again, we talked about it before, the artwork. So the artwork on some of these cards and what they can do with them now with the holographic cards and foil stamped, and we'll have some signature cards, I think, and some original artwork cards. There's so many cool things, and the sports card market right now is nuts. Which I hope it doesn't get too nuts because I feel like they might start putting out too much product. But for us, this is the first series. It's going to be very limited. People who get their hands on it, if we continue to go down the road, I think that some of those cards are going to be very, very valuable down the line. But it was just a lot of fun, and I'm a big card person. I like the collectible cards. Our metal cards have done well, but this has been, it was just way better than we thought it was going to be, than we ever anticipated. And hopefully,
And also, yeah, what were you saying?
I was going to say, hopefully, we're just finishing it up. I'm hoping that we can ship next month. We should be able to. So, actually, a pretty quick turnaround for Kickstarter. So that's hopefully where we're at.
And one of the things that I like about Zenescope in particular is that obviously you've kickstarted other things. I think that you've kickstarted a bunch of the statues. I know you've kickstarted that. I know you've done some Indiegogos with coloring books. What was the other Kickstarter? You did the Van Helsing box. Was the one before?
That was really good. Yeah. Kickstarter is great. I love being able to go out there and these projects can be really expensive. So to get your kind of upfront costs out of the way, so you can produce some cool products without having to go through the distributor. The whole model of how things are distributed now and how products get to the marketplace is so much better, and so it's so good for creative people and people who can't get like those trading cards. We never would have got anywhere. We never would have been able to place them. We would have had to pay for them up front. But you go out to a community like Kickstarter, who is very art driven. They want cool products, and you can sell it. So it's like, I can't even say how much I love that format.
And also, it gives you data back because I ran a Kickstarter last January for this show, and one of the things is that I got a lot of data back, and I got a lot of shit for it too, which I enjoy because I'm going to prove everybody wrong, and it's going to be fun. I enjoy that. But I also got a real sense of who actually believes in what I'm doing as an interviewer and what type of guests I bring on, and who doesn't, and who understands what the market is looking like. And it's very interesting because the people, it actually acted as a buffer where it eliminated a lot of bad actors. And, because the people who want to support it are like, yo, what do you need from me? And because they want this show to succeed. And so it's fascinating in that regard. And it's actually keeping me afloat for another year, which is a whole nother ball game as well. And I think that's something that people really need to understand is that, it is very community driven, and it's such a cool platform in a lot of ways. And I think that obviously for you guys, it makes a lot of sense too, because, it does get a lot of those costs out of the way. And it also says, hey, we have the power to somewhat control our destiny.
Yeah, and it's eliminating those gatekeepers, right? The gatekeepers are always, in my experience, and even just running this company and before, like there's one or two people who are going to dictate what products get to the marketplace in certain areas. And what if their taste isn't aligned with, a good majority of the public or a good majority of the consumers? And like you said, you can get right to those consumers. They're going to tell you what they want. Like I do a lot of I place a lot of Kickstarters, and I think it's great. I see the product that I want. I don't have to worry about the middleman. If we wanted to put this in comic stores, we'd have to go through Diamond. They'd have to place their orders. And again, it'd be a bunch of people who, they're not getting their customers' feedback. They're not seeing if the customers want it. They're just saying, I like this product, let me put it out there, or I don't like this product, so I'm not going to order it. I love the fact, and I think that's that way with all entertainment. It's going to continue down that road. If you can put good entertainment together, you don't have to worry about the Hollywood gatekeepers or the retail gatekeepers. You can get it right to the consumer. I think that's awesome.
And also, I think that it is very much binary, where it's either you make it on Kickstarter or you don't. And I think that's the other thing too. And also, I think that Kickstarter is an extremely honest platform, because if you do not deliver, it's going to be known, it's going to ring throughout the entire system. Yes. I mean, I interview a lot of people who do a lot of indie Kickstarter projects and comics, and everybody knows who has scammed people. Everybody knows who isn't delivering. Everybody knows when, okay, you got 15 excuses later and you're 15 months late, you don't back again. And it's the ultimate, I think, test. And I think that with you guys, obviously, you're doing a lot of, direct sales. You have your website, then you have your Kickstarter. And if you don't deliver on your Kickstarter, and I mean, you guys have a great track record, I'm going to just say that very openly. This is my first time backing a Kickstarter, so hopefully I'm not wrong on that. Don't make me mince my words, an issue of attraction here. But your reputation is on the line. I think it's really just a brilliant concept, because when you get to that point where you're now also having like a Shopify store or a website, or you have a brand, your reputation is on the line. I mean, you launch a Kickstarter. My reputation on mine is on the line every time I do an interview, because I ran a podcast on Kickstarter.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's great. And like you said, you find out who the people are who aren't going to fulfill their obligations, and you have to. I mean, that's the biggest thing, throughout all of this is trying to get that product done and in their hands, because they believed in it and they backed it. And there's always delays. Like we did this Grimopoly. We didn't kickstart it. We just pre-sold it on our website. I don't know if you've seen it, but it took a lot longer to get in than we thought it was going to, because of all the shipping delays. But we eventually filled it. We tried to make it right with the people who waited so long. But if you don't fulfill those obligations, you're done. You're gonna get, there's nothing worse than bad word of mouth. That'll sink you quicker than anything else.
Yeah, and I also think that this Kickstarter was very generous on the stretch goals, but that's not the point. I could tell you why I backed it, and I got no problem. This might get me banned from buying ever from Zenescope again. I'm more than happy to admit it. I didn't really care about the trading cards. I cared about the metal card. Okay. Because I love metal cards. Yeah. And so when I was like, oh, snap, the metal card is a stretch goal, I'm like, that's kind of cool. Because I know what you guys sell metal cards for. It's usually $10 to $12.50. Yes. And I'm like, if it's a $19 pledge and it's a $12.50 metal card that's not going to ever be on your website, like, oh, snap, like that's almost all the value, which is a crazy concept in a Kickstarter. And it sounds weird, but obviously I found that the stretch goal, and then when you added, I think, 2 more metal cards on, it was like, oh, wow, this is actually like legit.
Yeah, and for sure, I mean, that's one of the things that we want to do with Kickstarter: get products out there that you can't get if you don't pledge to the campaign. So I'm actually glad to hear that. That's good. Hopefully you enjoy the cards too. But if we can put some stretch goals out there that's the only way you can get them, and that gets people in, then that's good too.
Because it's just one of those things where I love metal cards and I also love exclusivity. And that's the thing. And I don't think I'm wrong when I say those metal cards are not going to be issued outside of the Kickstarter, from my understanding.
Nope. Anything that we've done on Kickstarter, I mean, occasionally we'll bring them to a show or like a VIP event and let our VIPs get access to overages. But I would think those metal cards are probably all gone. And if it's a stretch goal, we won't overprint those. You know, we might print a couple for damages, but that's it. They're printed, they're done, and they go out to the backers, and that's it.
And so that if you missed it, I don't know what to say. You could buy it off of somebody on eBay.
You'll find it on eBay, yep.
So that's all I'm going to say. There's some metal cards that go for good money, like 60, 70 bucks on eBay from Kickstarters.
Yep. Yeah.
I'm just saying, it's crazy. It's mind-boggling to me.
Well,
and it's just like
the exclusivity of it is what it is. You know, there's only so many of them made.
And so I don't know. And then obviously, even going further, what happens with the rest of the cards for those who are listening to this and checking it out, where obviously everybody on Kickstarter is going to get their cards, hopefully first, and they might be the only people who get it, but is that cards eventually going to be on Zenescope's website, or is it just a exclusive Kickstarter product, or is it the idea that there's going to be a series 2, a series 3? Because I know the cards are super limited. I think the most any card can have is what, 1,000?
Yeah, 1,000. Yeah. So because of the success of the Kickstarter, I would say I think like 85% of them are sold through Kickstarter. So there'll be a couple of hobby boxes left. There'll be a couple of blasters. You know, there'll be some product left over, but it's not going to be a ton. Most of it, and there will be a series 2. We'll probably do the same way through Kickstarter. We'll probably up some of the quantities on some of them, but yeah, this first series almost all through Kickstarter, and there won't be much to sell afterwards. But what'll happen is they'll come in, they'll go out to the backers, probably like a month after everybody gets theirs. They'll go up for sale on our web store and at shows, but there'll be a while before until everybody gets their packages.
No, it makes sense, and the reason why I ask is because somebody's gonna be like, "Oh man, I really want to buy it," and there you go, and they just don't want to, and they're like, "I really like cards, and how did I miss this?" Right? It happens.
Yeah.
And you know, obviously, and people come late to the party sometimes, and obviously, you guys are gaining new fans every single live stream and all that stuff too. And it was like, "Oh snap, I missed the Kickstarter. How do I get one of these things if I can?" And so that's why I just want to throw that out there, and I'm trying to sell your product here.
Thank you. Need it.
I don't even work for you guys, and I'm selling your product. Like, clearly, we found my real calling here. And by the way, notebooks are up on Zenescope's website by, what is it, Chris DeLaura, I think, came out today.
They're not, the Chris DeLaura stuff that came out today is not on any books yet. We've kind of done a couple of.
It's the notebooks. It's the notebooks.
Yeah. So it's on notebooks, but it hasn't been on any comic books. So there's a couple of new. Chris DeLaura has done like a 4 or 5 piece set of our main characters that we're trying to do a little bit more. Again, going back to exclusivity, we're trying to do some artwork by our artists that's not going to be just on the comics, or won't be on the comics for a while, and it'll be on other products. We've had good success with, like the trading cards. Pretty much anything we put our artwork on sells pretty well. So, doing a short run of notebooks that have some really cool artwork that isn't anywhere else is what we're trying to do for some of our fans.
I do like the Kanan White notebook, because Kanan White is just a beast. God, just a beast. I mean, his work is phenomenal, and that guy just knows how to draw. He also knows how to talk, which is crazy. not as much as Raven. That's all I'm going to say on that point.
He's got the world record for talking. There's nobody who can talk more than him.
But obviously, there's a lot of stuff going back to this Kickstarter that obviously, if you backed it and you backed on a physical level, there's a boatload of stretch goals you're getting. I don't know. Are we getting 6 cards, or did they all become hollow foils? I don't even know.
I think there were 6 hollow foil stretch goals that they're foil stamped. I think we got to all 6 of them. If not, whatever we didn't get to, some of the ones will be in the packs. So you'll have a chance to get them in your packs.
And then there's a digital comic. I think also, was there a sticker, or was the sticker not there? I know there was metal cards. There's 3 metal cards, 2 Carla Cohens, and then was it a Garvey metal card, I want to say?
Yeah, I think so. And I think there was a sticker, but I'm not looking at it right now. There was a lot, because at the end we were just like, God, we got to get some more stretch goals. We didn't think we were going to need this many. Um, so
Isn't there like a binder too?
yes, the binder was part of the stretch goal. Yep, that's going to be cool. And you could add that on. So there's a good amount of extra freebies with it.
Again, why do you think I backed it, everybody?
There you go. Yeah, you're going to probably get if you just did the, like the $20 pledge, you're probably going to get $50 worth of stretch goals, if not more. And those
I added another pack. I added another pack because I was like, oh, this is cool. It was only like $7 or $8 to add another pack on. But I didn't want to buy a blaster box because, obviously money's tight. And so I was happy to just with the two, and I was like, cool, I'll just add another pack on there. And that's what I liked about this as well, is that in the backer kit, you don't have to spend a boatload of money, where if you want 3 or 4 packs, it'll cost you like $36, and it's not going to bankrupt you. Or if you wanted to buy like a blaster box or a hobby box and you wanted 3 or 4 more packs, again, that was an option too. Just helpful.
Yeah, and like you said, I think with those foil cards and the metal cards and the binder, all of that stuff has got tremendous value. Especially since it's limited. It'll be, I think, whatever they are, they're all going to be limited to less than 300. So, they'll be worth more than what you paid for. That's for sure.
And then obviously that's out there. If you missed it, I don't know what to say. Make friends with somebody on eBay is all I'm going to say.
I think if you go to the site until we ship, you can still order, but don't quote me on that. I'm not 100% sure. You can test it. Because like I said, through Backer Kit, you can still place orders.
Yeah, I'm not a Kickstarter expert, and I don't know much about backer kits. So I mean, obviously, if you check it out, or better yet, just wait and hopefully you get lucky in August. Is all I'm gonna say, or September.
Yep, they're gonna get fast. We'll have an announcement, so yeah, keep your eyes out for it.
And then obviously, I want to back out of all this, and I do want to press you on what is going on with Zenescope in the next tomorrow. Obviously, furthermore, what's going on Thursday also is the virtual con. Anything you want to drop, anybody should look out for, or you're going to keep it close to the vest? And then even going further out, what can people expect over the next month, 2 months with Zenescope, and kind of just piquing their interest per se?
So, I mean, the birthday VCon will be a lot of fun. It'll be our usual stuff with some interviews and new product, a lot of new product. That some of it that'll be exclusive to the VCon. So make sure you check that out. I think it's going to be business as usual for us for the balance of this year. We're back at live shows, which is really cool. Doing the live conventions, which have been fairly good so far, all things considered. We didn't know what to expect. San Diego, that we'll see how that goes. That'll be that's next month. That's our biggest show of the year. If you haven't been to San Diego, it's crazy. If you have been, hopefully it's back to the same level it was before. But other than that, we'll do another Kickstarter. We're gonna have another Kickstarter once this one is fulfilled, probably at maybe the end of August, beginning of September, and it'll be another box set of horror books. So keep your eye out for that. Our goal by the end of the year is to start to try and produce at least one film. That's the big thing we're going to try and do. I don't know if we're going to kickstart it. I don't know if we're going to just self-produce it. But we're working on a Tales of Terror film idea. So, but other than that, business as usual. Continue to publish the same books that we've been doing. Continue to have a VCon every month, and now we're back at live shows.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on with you guys, and obviously everybody just save your money every month because once a month.
Yeah. June and July are going to be very expensive. A lot of good, cool stuff coming out.
And so that's all I'm going to say on that point. Obviously, I'm not going to give my Zenescope analysis, but the books do go up in value, and certain books go up very nicely in value. That Easter book, that Senkuminaki Easter book, is like a $150 book. It's crazy.
Wow. I was going for
$25 when it came out.
Yeah. And that's what we're trying to do with most of our limited edition collectibles. Like, we want to see them appreciate in value. We want to see people really want to collect them. And we've been really lucky with that. It's most of the books that we do appreciate in value. Those limited edition collectibles, I think it speaks for the artwork and the artists working on them and, our characters. So we're very happy to see that.
Perfect example is this book right here.
Now that one, that's probably going to be, because that was never for sale. So limited to 25. That'll be a very valuable book.
This is at least a $200 book, at
Yes.
least.
Yes.
Um, Maybe more like 250. Very cool book. Obviously, Josh Burns did the cover. It's an Easter book, and the regular version of this book is not a $200 book. This one is a super limited gold foil, obviously raffle oriented, and it's not for sale right now because my mom really likes this book, which is like one of the only Zenescope books she likes that thinks is okay. So therefore, I really can't sell it.
Now, hold
But
on. It'll be worth a good amount in the coming years.
I'm looking forward to having it in my personal collection. But obviously, and I'm gonna just keep saying this, you need to support companies that you like and that you like their product. What that means is actually buying their merchandise, whether it's a comic, whether it's a mug, whether it's a metal card, whether buying it digitally. Any way you want to buy it, you need to support them in that fashion. Also, you know, another thing is you got to follow them on social media, like their Facebook pages, comment on what they're doing, engage with them, because that stuff does matter. And obviously, with Zenescope, they're a comic company. So you also need to check out what their artists are doing and engage with what their artists are doing, because that is just as important as buying directly from the company, as well as following certain artists and say, hey, really like your cover. Because that also goes a long way. And same thing with writers. If you like a particular writer, if you like Joe's writing, just shoot a tweet to Joe, like, hey, I really enjoyed your story, because it does go a long way. And it is important, I think, that people not just support financially, but do support on also a moral and a story wise in that fashion. So I recommend people do that. As far as I'm concerned, obviously, I appreciate people liking this show, sharing this show out, hitting me up on social media, coming to bother me. I do a lot of interviews, and I do want people to actually watch them because they're fun and it's enjoyable. And I have a lot of cool people on, and you never know who's going to come on. So I appreciate that. Obviously, I appreciate people sharing it. People appreciate subscribing to my YouTube channel, checking me out on social media. Also, if you would like to support this show, you can buy me a coffee. I appreciate when people do that too. It's not a requirement, but obviously, if you want to show me some love, I appreciate that. But more importantly, liking this interview, sharing this interview, it's like a virtual hug, and it makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside, and it's free. So please go do that. It definitely means something to me. But enough of me shilling here for everybody. Obviously, I'm going to give you the final word on everything. So what do you got?
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the head. I think whether it's through social media or just word of mouth. Word of mouth is the best way that you can get a company out there or get anything out there that you like. If your friend suggests something to you, you're more than likely to listen to it, watch it, read it, check it out. So if you like the show, if you like our books, if you like whatever you like, make sure you're recommending it to your friends and talking about it. So that's the way that you're going to build the audiences and get more fans. Word of mouth, there's nothing stronger than it. So talk about it.
Yeah, I don't think I could have said that any better myself. So obviously, we should all be talking about Zenescope in my show now. And on that note, everybody, I believe that is a wrap.